Hey, what's good YouTube? Obey Your Ramen back here with another video. Today I'm trying something a little different to content I've done in the past, but it's still kind of related to the content you expect to see on this channel. I'm going to be attempting a tier list. Now, if you saw the title of the video, which I'm hoping you did when you clicked on it, this is going to be a tier list of current competitive games right now that I believe are either like really popular, or like worth your time. Because a lot of the content on this channel is, based around playing competitive games with like friends and the funny moments that come from that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get to this tier list. So here's the tier list. We can see all the games down here. Just want to make a reminder as well before the video starts. Don't forget to go down there and hit subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and like it and comment, all those things that let me know that you enjoyed the content you've seen, or even saying that you want to see it again. Maybe even recommend me things you want me to make tier lists on. I'll kind of do a bit of a variety thing. I can pretty much do tier lists on everything if you ask me. So, I'd be interested to see where that goes. Also, just want to plug the stream. Every Friday and Saturday, we stream over on this channel still, just live on YouTube, at about 10 p.m. British Standard Time, and then we stream for about 6 hours until about 5 o'clock in the morning. So you can catch streams at that time. I do them that late for my majority American audience, because then they're usually at like awake hours when those streams are going. What else is there? Also, down in the description, there'll be the Discord where you can come hang out and spend time with the community. And then when those streams are active, you can also join and take part and play games with me when I'm live. So yeah, if that's something you'd also be interested in, again, down there in the description. You'll also get updates for videos the moment they're uploaded to YouTube, unlike YouTube's bell system that doesn't always 100% work, but I'd still recommend clicking it anyways when you hit subscribe. Anyways, enough of the plug. Let's get into the video. So as you can see here on the tier list has 5 different tiers. We've got GOAT, which is just like games that I really, really think are worth your time to get into. We've got Great and Average. Now you're probably wondering, why isn't there a bad tier? I personally don't think any of these games are bad per se. I've played some really bad games, so I feel like these games don't really fall under that. But for different reasons, they may not make GOAT tier. Kind of like what I've used as a standard for this video is the game still alive? When you get into it, is it like easy to learn but hard to master, like it has a decent learning curve? It's not difficult from the get-go to the point where it'll lose you entirely. Is the game, reasonably priced? Is it free? Is it paid? What are the microtransactions like? Are they in your face? And then the last one is community. Is the community alive? Are they toxic? Are they unfair to new players? Will you be able to find like-minded people? All those things I feel are way more important to the tier list, because all these games are kind of just like objectively good. Like, they run well, play well, etc. There's just the more like deeper nuances of those games that kind of like alter where they go on this tier list. With that said, we're going to make a start right over here with Tekken 8. Now I've got 2 fighters on this list, as you can see. Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. Now, even though I don't even play Street Fighter 6 that often, and my second main fighter is actually Guilty Gear Strive, I feel as though Guilty Gear just is not as popular as Tekken and Street Fighter, especially in the Evo and competitive scene. They're still getting title updates, new characters. Guilty Gear did get 2.0, but obviously ArcSys is kind of focused on Tokon right now, so they're not really putting their effort as much into Guilty Gear, so those updates and those new seasons and balance patches are a lot slower than Street Fighter and Tekken, that are essentially fighting each other as which game's better at Evo. and then Mortal Kombat's just kind of crying in the corner, not getting any updates anymore. So Mortal Kombat 1 and Guilty Gear aren't on that list for that reason. And I also just didn't want to put too many fighting games because I feel like even though they are competitive games, they're slightly in their own kind of thing. They're a little bit more niche than a lot of like the shooters and stuff that are on this list. But I feel like because these fighting games are at EVO and that is a big competitive games event, they are just kind of worth mentioning. So yeah, Tekken 8. In my opinion, for Tekken 8, Tekken 8 is the easiest Tekken to get into, you know, bar none. From a graphical standpoint, the game is gorgeous. You have stuff to help new players out, like auto combos and special style. Although those people continue to use those things all the way up to Fujin and not even bother to learn the game, and it's really annoying. And it keeps you from getting Tekken God. Which is why I have to bring up the point that as amazing of a game Tekken 8 is, and it is my main fighter, I could almost... for the fact that my fight stick looks like this, I almost wouldn't recommend anybody getting into Tekken. The game is rage-inducing. Plain and simple. I think the game is really, really fun with your friends to 1v1 them. Especially when they start to kind of get good around the same time as you. It can get really satisfying, like a big anime rivalry. But I think the game in general, the learning curve is really steep, and I think that'll lose a lot of people. And then naturally, fighting games in general are a very niche genre. But I do think if you got Tekken 8, you would find matches, you would find a decent community. Some of them are just complete pricks, but I think you'd have a good time. I wouldn't get it at full price, just because the DLC characters and seasons are now getting along with it, and like most fighting games, the DLC for some reason is really expensive. So for that reason, I'm going to stick Tekken 8 in great tier. Alright, next up, Marvel Rivals. When Marvel Rivals burst onto the scene, my god, the eruption was insane. Finally, Overwatch was dethroned. I just noticed Overwatch isn't on this list, so I'm gonna need to add that real quick. But finally, Overwatch was dethroned, right? As like the hero shooter. Overwatch had been falling off for a while, and then they dropped Overwatch 2, and everybody hated it, and it left this perfect little opening for the replacement to come in. Marvel Rivals is frankly a fantastic game. I have loads of hours in it. I have loads of mains, loads of skins. I've pretty much bought every battle pass, bar 2. And a big component of this list as well, which I actually forgot to mention at the start, is would I solo queue this game, or would it be hell to solo queue this game? But I actually would. I actually think this game is decent to solo queue. I think the community is alright. Some of the people in competitive are a little bit toxic, but that's kind of what you should expect. None of these games are going to be sunshine and rainbows when it comes to the community discussion. But I think Marvel Rivals is really killing it right now. The majority of their skins, battle pass packs, etc. are all really, really reasonably priced. The game is constantly getting updated and balanced, and every season you can expect at least 2 new heroes. So if you don't find anyone that you're liking the playstyle of yet, just wait, I'm sure they'll drop one. Marvel Rivals is an easy go tier. Next up, Bungie's new game, Marathon. Now, in my opinion, Marathon was an amazing proof of concept. I loved the art style. I loved the character designs. I loved the music, the trailers, the lore, the gunplay. I was so hyped for this game. There were a few things that killed this game before it got a chance to really shine. When it dropped, the learning curve was a lot more... how do I word this? Difficult to get to grips to. The game was really, really sweaty early on, and I think that killed a lot of its player base before they really gave it a chance. You then have the problem of and this is proven, by the way, manufactured hate campaign against this game by ex-Destiny fans, which, by the way, we will definitely be fucking getting to. Destiny fans. But I think Marathon is a really beautiful game. It's dying. Its player base is really falling off. I find extraction shooters get a really tight-knit group of people who just sweat the game out, and then they're the only people who play it, which makes it really, really hard for new people to get into, and then they just sit around at like 8,000 players concurrently, which happened to another game on this list, which we will eventually get to. I'm sure you can see it in the list. Cough, cough. So I wouldn't necessarily put Marathon at dead. And it does actually have quite a lot of stuff in place for like a solo player or someone who's going to solo queue. A second. Shake your dreads! Oh, ladies, I'm trying to do my work type shit. Anyways, so I would probably put Marathon in average. It is a great game, but as like your first time experience looking for games, the fact that it's $30 probably doesn't sell it very well, compared to the fact that something like Marvel Rivals and GOAT tier is free. The fact that the player base is dwindling and it's going to be very hard to find actual positive, straightforward reviews on it because of the brigaded hate campaign, which means it also may be harder to sell it to your friend group, which is also important. So for that reason, it's going smack dab in the middle at average. League of Legends. And yes, this artwork is necessary, okay? Because I feel like I'm losing you. So I dangle slightly not safe for work art in front of you so you pay attention. Hello on your second monitor. I'm over here. Hi. Subscribe, by the way. Hi. Hello. Okay, I'm taking the piss. But League of Legends. This is a really, really hard one to do. I also realized I'm missing another Riot game on here, being Valorant. So I'm gonna have to add that as well. But what can I say about League of Legends that hasn't already been said? Me personally, I enjoy League of Legends. I'm a Yunara main. Don't come at me. I'm a Yunara main and I like running bottom, okay? Don't come at me. The people who like League of Legends really fucking like League of Legends, right? It's like the only game they play. I'm sure you have much bigger YouTubers you watch other than me who will talk about playing League of Legends or have a League addiction and how they just can't fucking let it go. And it's true. But the people on this game need to bath, bro. They need to shower. They are dicks. It's honestly the second most toxic game I've played on this list. Bar none, for sure. It also has the issue of being PC only. So that kills a lot of the market. I'm trying to also be reasonable to the people of you who may be getting consoles for the first time, a PS5, a Series X, the new gen, or it's not really new anymore, but current gen consoles. So you won't even be able to play League on that. Obviously, the game isn't dead. The game is very alive. And I really wouldn't recommend getting your friends into it. But I also even wouldn't recommend solo queuing it. Yet somehow I'd recommend it. So it's kind of hard to give a straightforward answer on this one. So I'm just gonna put it in average, and we'll leave it in average for now. Next up, Fortnite. Now, it kind of pains me to say this, but unfortunately, Fortnite, for all of the categories that we're classifying these games under, sadly still reigns supreme, okay? The slop wins. No, I'm kidding, okay. Fortnite isn't necessarily slop. In my opinion, it's definitely game crossover slop. I think we're doing too many crossovers now, too many franchises, and they're getting nicher and nicher, and they're ruining things that I enjoy. Whatever. But in terms of like Fortnite accessibility, the game, at least if you're playing without builds, which most people play now, because not a lot of people actually enjoyed the building, except for Pros are sweats. So a lot of your casual or general audience just wanted to shoot. That's why they made Zero Build. The game is piss easy. There's barely a learning curve, and even as you rank up and get better and level up, you're still like dwarfing most people. So I feel like Fortnite, even though it's not like the greatest game of all time to me, according to the categories, games that I feel like you should get into, you literally could not go wrong with getting into Fortnite. It's free. It's on everything. It's extremely accessible. And then when you tell your friends to get into it, and you can drop as a squad, for them it's also free and extremely accessible. So it's kind of hard to just almost be like, I can't recommend Fortnite. It's still alive. It now has like the Roblox style like islands feature. Never use it, but you can go visit like community created islands and play other stuff if you don't just want to do battle royale. And then it's got all these different modes. It's trying to be an everything game, right? So it's kind of hard to tell you like, don't get into this game because it's an everything game. So there's literally no negative downsides to it for you. So unfortunately, Fortnite, as much as it pains me to say this, has to go in GOAT tier. Deadlock. Okay. I'm going to get some hate for this, especially with what I said about League of Legends. But I didn't really enjoy Deadlock. I think Valve makes really, really good games, and they make really, really good competitive shooters. They've made one really, really good competitive shooter. I'm not really going to call Team Fortress 2 competitive, let's be real. But I think they have a good grasp on like the genre balancing and everything like that. But something about Deadlock just didn't feel right to me. I think a lot of the times when a genre like a MOBA tries to be done in a point of view that isn't necessarily top down, where this one was kind of like over the shoulder, it made like aiming and tracking enemies who would attack you from a really wide berth in a MOBA kind of hard to keep track of because you're in third person over the shoulder. It doesn't really work. It works for first person with stuff like Overwatch, and it works with a faraway camera like Rivals, but Deadlock's camera is just too fucking close, man. It's like impossible to see anything. The character designs are really cool, and it is free, but I think what kind of kills the accessibility thing is the learning curve is really, really steep for this game. Kind of for like no reason. Which again is kind of just brought in sweats, and then casual people kind of just haven't touched it. I have a lot of friends on Steam, and I can tell you now I barely ever see them open fucking Deadlock. Okay? Secondly, the game still is weirdly locked behind this like playtest request thing where you have to go and request to get access to the game in your Steam library from Valve, yet it's been like a year. Just had the add to library button, twin. To be honest, like, it's a live service game. It's going to keep getting updated. You can't just say when it's end of life cycle that it's no longer early access. Again, I think this game is kind of just in the middle of the road on everything we spoke on, so I'm going to stick it in average. Destiny 2. Ooh, this one hurts, and I'll show you why. That's right, guys. I got the PS4 Destiny 2 physical release. Like, week of launch, bro. This, in my hands, is actually worth fucking nothing. I could literally snap this case in half, and my wallet would feel nothing. Here's why I can't recommend Destiny 2 to you. First off, the game is dead. It's no longer getting any kind of updates. Most of the people were really burnt by that and jumped ship. It's rough out there, man. It's not happening. Destiny 2 literally had its like MMO death moment where all the players gathered around and fucking watched the sun explode. Whatever the fuck, right? Because they wanted to focus on Marathon, which then also died because they didn't balance it fast. I love Bungie, bro, up until like Halo Reach. Then it's such a fall off. They're still cooking. I think like Marathon still cooks, And I think Destiny 2 had its moments where it cooked, but they just made so many mistakes and tripped over themselves so many fucking times. Now, I didn't put it on this list, but I do think a decent enough equivalent to the Destiny 2 itch. I'm not actually going to say Warframe. I'm not a Warframe fan. Alright, let me get that out there now. But I will say the First Descendant. The First Descendant is really fun, has really cool character designs, skins. You know. You there, sitting at home, who doesn't know what game I just fucking spoke about, you know. And if you don't know, you'll find out. The First Descendant is also on everything. So if it was here, I'd put it in GOAT tier, but I still think it's a little too niche to really go into this list. So I did put it there. Why I wouldn't recommend Destiny 2, even with everything I said about the dead community or whatever else. The community is just a ton of hurt man babies. No offense. If any game comes out that it's going to be better than the Destiny that they bitch and moan about, they will crucify and kill that game, and then go back to bitching and moaning about their dead game. Ooh, that's rough. I'm gonna catch heat for that. But I also think Destiny 2, being as long of a live service as it has too many expansions now. Making the game free to play to make the expansions more expensive was so stupid. And now if you want to get into the game, you better have $300 ready for every expansion to solo queue it, because no one else is on the game. Don't give Bungie your money for any Destiny 2 DLCs. Don't even install Destiny 2. As much as it pains me to say it, because I had so much good time with friends and so many hours on raids and stuff, it's dead now. It's not happening. And the Crucible was shit anyway, so if you wanted to play competitively, don't do that. Just breaking controller hell. Dead by Daylight. Now understand this. You just saw that image and you're like, Ramen, who is that? Let me just say, she's called the Huntress. And yes, she has all that going on. And yes, she can hook me anytime she pleases. Now, what can I say about Dead by Daylight? It's kind of hard to recommend because the game is old as shit and still like $25, which is a really, really hard sell for a game that is essentially only one mode, two ways, right? Killer and Survivor, Doom Generators, asymmetrical, survival horror. Even though survival horror is in the title, the game is very rarely scary unless you're like drunk as hell and playing it with your friends. So not only is the like cost of the game really off-putting, but then you have a situation where the community is so toxic on this game. Everyone in this game actually sucks. They just complain constantly. They literally seem like they're never happy to be there. And the game is expensive to get into. Other than like your first handful of survivors and hunters, getting new survivors and new hunters is actually relatively expensive. And so is if you want to customize them and get the skins and everything else. I've only spent money on the game once, and that was for Sable Ward, and that's because she looked like my wife. Thank you, Jesus Christ. So all I'm gonna say is Dead by Daylight. It's not dead, but it's definitely okay with your friends if you can get 4 of them and stack up and mess around with one killer. That's a good time. DayZ kind of falls into the same thing as Dead by Daylight. I do think DayZ is a substantially better game, but it kind of has the same issue as Rust, which I didn't put on this list because I feel like DayZ's having like a resurgence right now. And its console version is significantly better than Rust's console version. Even on next gen, I would still be like, don't buy Rust for console if you get a console. I would much more recommend DayZ to you. But the real answer is get a PC and play both. DayZ is like 10 years old now. In fact, it might even be more. It might be like 12 to 15. Fuck, I'm old. Holy shit. Let's let's take a second to breathe and just push through that for a second. But they're again still asking like $25. And I think the game is really good. It's an amazing experience. Even for solo queuing, it can be really, really atmospheric. But that atmosphere is kind of at the cost of fun. The DayZ map is huge. It is essentially like a quarter of a country. And when you spawn in with your friends, you're not going to spawn in together. No. You're going to be dotted around that massive map and not find each other for like the first 7 to 8 hours of your gameplay. And I think that can really, really lose people, because the first thing they're going to want to do in a game like this is meet up with their friends and kill players, kill zombies, build bases, whatever. Then I think the thing that could also put people off wanting to get into this game is DayZ, those servers and stuff still run even when you're offline. So it's not like a COD game where everyone starts at the same time, everyone finishes at the same time, and then nothing happens if you're not there. Obviously, when you go pee, the game still keeps playing, but you get what I'm saying. Between the allotted time limit of your match, that is the only time inputs matter. Give me a second. So when you're playing DayZ, if you have a base and all this loot, and you go offline, there's a chance that when you come online, that's all gone. And you are also murdered in your sleep. You're stripped butt naked in the middle of nowhere, and it's 10 more hours till you find your homeboy in a city full of Russian names you can't pronounce. I think the difficulty curve and the accessibility is practically at like 0 for this game. I think it's a really, really good game. But I'd say it's a really hard sell to friends, but it's decent enough to solo queue as long as you don't mind getting too attached to your items. This one goes into average. Call of Duty. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. When I say Call of Duty, I know the image is Black Ops 7. That's just because it's the most recent one. But I'm using Call of Duty as a catch-all term of like Modern Warfare 2019 to Black Ops 7, because they're kind of essentially the same game. I would recommend picking up Black Ops 7 if you are gonna play COD, even after everything I've said, just because it's the latest game. But, you know, if you're getting consoles and stuff at Christmas, then you may as well get Modern Warfare 4, because that's already going to be out by November. Here's some of the issues with Call of Duty. It's really, really expensive if you want the full experience. That's multiplayer, zombies, a campaign that hasn't been good since Modern Warfare 2 2022. So it's, again, a hard sell. Then you've got all the battle passes, microtransactions, and skins that still cost money, that are like $20 plus. And then you've got the fact that the game comes out every year. So if you're someone who doesn't make a lot of money or can't really buy new games, and you kind of put money aside for a game, by the time you get COD, the next one is already announced. I think their yearly release cycle is killing their fan base and killing their game. And every year it gets lazier and lazier. We get more shit skins, more reused assets, and more generative AI calling cards. I think Activision is really losing the plot and are being way too consumed by greed. I would very ever rarely say, oh, I blame Treyarch for the state of Black Ops 7, because Black Ops 3 is the GOAT. So is Treyarch makes fantastic fucking COD games. It's Activision and this new business model that's ruining it. Now, one of the benefits I can say for the new COD era is that Warzone exists. Now, Warzone is free to play, but it still has all the microtransaction issues that the full game that you pay money for has. So you still have expensive ass skins, expensive ass battle passes, etc. But at the very least, at least it's free. So if you don't like it, you can just uninstall it. And then it doesn't really make an effect on your wallet. And because it's free, it's easier to sell to your friends. but the game itself really needs a big change. Really, really needs a big rework, or I think COD, frankly, is gonna die in a few years. I think people really need to start voting with their wallets, especially the gun and ball gamers. I think you need to stop buying the latest 2K. You need to not buy the latest COD. You need to not buy the latest FIFA. They're going to be the exact same as the last 5. And they're going to be like, money, money, money. And make another one, and you're going to complain about it again, right? There's the fool me once synonym saying, they say, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me by Black Ops 7, I'm a retard. Black Ops 7, or just COD in general, mainly because of Warzone being free, goes into okay with friends. That's kind of it. Battlefield 6. Now, Battlefield 6 had this great opportunity to come out swinging and take Black Ops 7, right? Both betas dropped at the same time. Everyone's like, COD slop. Everyone else was like, Battlefield is back, right? They were killing it. The performance was great. The game looked fantastic. The gunplay was better than it had ever been in any other Battlefield game. It didn't feel like you were basically playing military Payday, which was nice. If you've played Payday 2 and you've played the shooting in that, and then you play Battlefield 4, it's the same thing. And neither are really, they don't really feel that good. Just gonna say it. And then EA became EA, unfortunately. And they kind of killed any trajectory Battlefield 6 had through a ton of controversies, as well as, no surprise here, ties to Saudi Arabia and Israel. I don't want to get political in this video because that's not what it's about, but that killed Battlefield 6 for a lot of people, and if that's something that bothers you, then it's something to just keep in mind if you look to get into Battlefield 6. I don't think the game is worth the money that it is. I think it already needs to go through a Battlefield 2042 moment of literally every month being 90% off, and you can just get it for like $10, because Battlefield 6 is kind of like stale. It's just like still water. It just floats. It's got no waves. It's got no nothing. And the games are really long. So this is also just more from like a player perspective. You've got to be willing to, contribute at least 45 minutes to a game. And that can be a lot for some people, whether it's like a game before work or a game just before bed. Or if you're school age, it could be like, I only get an hour after school on the PlayStation or whatever. If your parents are doing that, insane, by the way. So, being like, I only get an hour, let me play a game for 45 minutes that's in the middle of nowhere and I'm going to run around and get sniped halfway across the map. It's fun for some people. I get it. And I get why the experience is positive. There is RedSec, which was the image I actually used here. That was the RedSec promotional image, which is like a free-to-play mode, semi-Warzone, semi-small conquest mode. I actually think that's all right, but only like in short bursts. Battlefield is only ever good in short bursts. I've never really done like a long session of Battlefield where it's like, I'm never going to get off this game. And yet I would still say that I've enjoyed other Battlefields, but 6 did it, but only about as much as like Battlefield 1, which is probably my most played Battlefield. So I found that I dropped very quickly and we just kind of moved on. And I think a lot of people kind of just moved on. I don't think the game is dead, but I think it's a really hard sell to your friends. So we're kind of treating average as like the kind of like don't get into this game that much tier. Where it's not necessarily like it's okay with friends or that it's dead, but if you solo queued it, I think you just have like a mediocre time. So I think I'm gonna place Battlefield right there in average. Rainbow Six Siege. This is a tough one, okay? Because Siege did something amazing that I hope another game that's coming up on this list does shortly, because I really think would help save the game. and that was going free to play. Siege cost way too much money for way too long, and it should have done the free to play model like 2 to 3 years ago, right? Because Siege, in essence, is an old game. It's starting to look and show its age quite a bit when you play it. A lot of the people who are still playing it, they won't be in your games or in your ranks, hopefully, if there's unless they're smurfing. By the way, if you smurf, you're a piece of shit. It just shows that you can't kill the people in your own level, and you need an ego boost by killing people worse than you. Whatever. Uh, but even so, even the people in 1K, 2K elo, bronze, silver, are still somehow assholes, and they think they're literally like god at the game. They just aren't. But Siege going free to play has kind of made the issue now that the microtransactions have gotten worse. The battle passes and stuff already costed money, just like pretty much every game on this list. But now you have it where like you literally get the game for free and you get 4 defenders, 4 attackers out of a cast of almost like 20 people per side. And it's like, buy each one individually or in a pack for $25. And it's like, if you're going to make the pack that expensive, don't make the game free to play. And then when you just buy the game, you're buying the complete edition with all the characters instead of continuing to shove microtransactions and hemorrhage money out of your fan base until you have nothing. But I still think Siege has just this weird itch of being satisfying, especially if you're good at it. The game can get really, really satisfying. And I think now that being made free to play, this is the best time to jump into it if you've never played Siege before. I'm kind of treating this as I've never played these games before, only heard about them or seen YouTube videos, right? You're that kid. So in that respect, I would say Siege is pretty good. I wouldn't wish solo queuing Siege on like my worst enemy, especially not competitive. But the moment you get out of quick play and into unranked, which I would call real Siege, and then like obviously into competitive, you're gonna have a way better time. It's got a moderate learning curve, but if you can play other shooters and you can get that aim down, then it's really just utility and game sense. So for that, I'm gonna put Siege in gray. Arc Raiders. This one burns, man. Arc Raiders had an amazing start. I've got another game by this developer as well on this list that had an amazing start. And for some weird reason, their games never managed to hold their player base. I don't know if it's like the nicheness or whatever. Although I don't feel like Arc Raiders was niche. It felt like Arc Raiders was like rivaling a lot of the big games at the time, especially on like streaming platforms like Twitch and stuff. It was literally like rivals Fortnite, Arc Raiders. Like they were like the trifecta of streaming at one point. But I saw a comment under a Instagram reel that I sent to the Bubble Bandit, who like we both bought Arc Raiders at the same time. I might have even bought it for him, and we played like a good amount of it. But the progression was way too slow. It felt like it took loads and loads of runs to get through the battle pass. It felt like you spent games without finding anybody, and then when you did find them, they were dicks, or they annihilated you entirely, especially when the game became more like clip farm focused, because there was an initial community thing where it was like, if we're playing Arc Raiders, we have to play PvP. Sorry, PvE. It is a PvP game. I'm not gonna be one of those people who are like, why did you kill me in the game where we kill people? But it's more just like the switch and the way it went around it ruined it for a lot of people. And then again, the sweats came in, and the streamers came in, and then its player base kind of killed itself. But yeah, the comment that I sent to the Bubble Bandit said, one day I didn't feel like playing Arc Raiders, and the feeling to play it never came back. And that's how I feel about it. I've not touched the game basically since Marathon came out, and I've also since then barely touched Marathon. They are trying to make changes to kind of make it more accessible. I think the best thing Arc Raiders could do now to get new players after all the hype kind of passed, but like it floats around, like you still see clips pop up on Reels every once in a while, and people still do play it, but just not as many as when it had its boom, is to make Arc Raiders free to play. I think swap the model of paid game, free battle pass, and go free game, paid battle pass. Because that's what people are kind of coming to expect. And I think at the moment, it kind of should become more standard to make competitive games free to play. Not because I want the game full of squeakers, kids, and easy kills. Absolutely not. But it's more the fact that, like, if you look at Concord, for example, even though Concord looked generic, and Arc Raiders did not look generic at all, it had a really cool art style. Kind of reminded me of like the concept art for like a New Hope, like that kind of like rustic dying sci-fi. I really like that aesthetic, right? And like the very scrappy, put together like costumes, or it's like a half-ripped spaceman outfit with a Vietnam Army helmet. That shit is cool, right? Um, I think if you made Arc Raiders free to play, you would get a massive boom to your player base again, especially with all the communication and stuff. And then when people are like, the game is free, and now all these kids and squeakers are coming to it because they don't have to convince their mom to spend $25 on them, they'll be like, there's clip farming now because we can just troll these kids. You bring back the old YouTube trolling content, you bring back your player base, infinite money glitch. But right now, it sucks. I have to put Arc Raiders in dead tier because I think the game really needs to be resuscitated. I think somebody needs to grab the defib and just fucking do. You know, that's what the game needs. Counter Strike 2. This is my most played competitive game. Then it goes Tekken. Then it goes Marvel Rivals. Holy. I don't like games where I'm supposed to have fun. I like torture, dude. It's like this game is the equivalent of being kicked in the balls. But the girl who kicks you in the balls is like hot. I don't know. Sorry. that was terrible. Yeah, CS2 has such a satisfying like thing to it. There's just something about it. I really don't know why this game is like liquid injected fucking cocaine. It's kind of like a Minecraft phase, except your Counter-Strike phase ends up being like 3 months instead of 2 weeks. The game is really, really fun if you're able to 5-stack with your boys and have good comms. If you aren't at least playing with 2 friends, don't play Counter-Strike. Just actually don't. You will get cussed out. You'll have Russians on your team that you cannot understand, so there's pretty much no point having comms at all, and they'll just yell at you in Russian, and you're like, no fucking help. And then the game, unfortunately, and this is like a long-standing issue, more than any other game on this list, except for maybe Siege, Counter-Strike is full of cheaters. Right now, on stream and stuff, we've been playing like Premier for like 9 hours. Really trying to just rank up, and it's like we'll hit a rank up point, and we'll be like, this is great. And we've had like 3 games of Epic, and then it's like, oh, a full team of private accounts. Let's check their CS watch. Oh, 90% trust rating or lower. And then you realize you're just getting like shot through walls. And that can really discourage people. But I think if you get into the economy and the good parts of the community, like my server, link down below, you can come run CS with me when you get it eventually. I think those people are the ones worth hanging around with. I think the skin community is really good. You know, the kind of like cases gambling aspect is pretty fun. Although obviously if you're under 18, don't fucking gamble, or just don't gamble at all. Do better things with your money. But there's just something about Counter-Strike. Despite all the toxicity, despite all of the cheaters, despite the fact that the game is actually just fucking horrible sometimes. To you, it's just horrible to you. I have to put it in GOAT tier. I know, it just like went against everything I said, but it would just feel wrong. The game just always deserves love, man. Counter-Strike, maybe it's because it's like my current game right now, and this is recency bias. But then I played Tekken like yesterday, and I put Tekken in great tier because fighting games are just niche. But at least this is a shooter. At least if you got this game, or this game, or this game, whatever, there's transferable skills. You know what I mean? Which is why Tekken's kind of sitting like its own little thing. But yeah, Counter-Strike 2, man. It's got to go in GOAT tier. For Honor. This is the other Ubisoft game that I was talking about. For Honor now is about as old as Rainbow Six Siege, and it still costs money. I really think For Honor needs to have its own Rainbow Six Siege X moment at this point, and just go free to play. This game had the same thing where you paid for the game, you only got a handful of base fighters from each faction, and then you had to either pay for or grind out the rest and battle passes and everything else. So if you made it free to play and the model was the exact same for like when you joined the game, I think turning it free to play wouldn't really hurt Ubisoft that much financially. Or they do a Halo Infinite situation where you make the multiplayer free to play and you make the campaign. Yes, For Honor has a story mode. You make the campaign like $15 and no one buys it. The game isn't dead, but I think it's extremely toxic and the learning curve is really high. But I think if the game went free to play and people saw the gameplay, because the game is pretty, the game does look objectively cool, like a badass Centurion Knight fighting a samurai with an Uchigana. Who's not gonna want to play that, bro? That's just aura. So I think if you made it free to play, it would take it out of dead tier. So I think right now where it would belong is okay with friends. But I think a lot of the games in this list need to go free to play to basically save these companies from dying. Apex Legends. Ooh. We should have gotten Titanfall 3. Now. That's going to make me sound like an Apex Legends hater, and I do not hate Apex Legends. I actually think Apex had a really good moment, which was when I initially got into Apex when it was new. When the new hero was guy who stabs himself in the chest and runs really fucking fast. Octane, because he was my main, right? The game was really, really good. When like Octane was what was classified as a new hero, and you had all those heroes and cool designs, and then it felt like every season we got a new character that was completely unbalanced and way too fucking strong, and then you just got designs that got more and more shit and more ugly. Then you had gameplay that slowed down instead of being the super fast zip around everywhere. Feels like the game is chopped down to like 50% speed. Maybe I'm misremembering how it felt, but sometimes it feels like I'm running to a different part of the map and it's like running in COD. And I remember Apex having all this movement. It's just not there. The game is also still sweaty as shit, and I'm pretty sure the only people left on Apex Legends because of its learning curve are the sweats. So even though I think the game is like good, if you're looking through the free to play store on your PlayStation or whatever, at this point, if you want that battle royale experience, it would be wrong for me to be like, oh dude, you gotta pick up Apex Legends over Fortnite, because I just don't think you would have as good of a time on it. It pains me to say this, but also with the dwindling player base, and again, the same EA issues that were affecting Battlefield 6, Apex Legends gotta go in dead tier, and that really fucking sucks. In fact, the entire end of this list is gonna be in pretty depressing places. Halo. Oh. You know, I was speaking about how important Destiny was to me, bro. it ain't got shit on Halo. Halo has been my fucking life since I was like putting controllers in my hands, right? My 5th birthday in 2008, I was given Halo 2 for Windows Vista, and this was after repeatedly slamming out on my old Mac that my dad let me play on growing up the Halo CE demo that I downloaded illegally off CNET as a kid and absolutely gave that computer a virus. But oh my god, was the Pillar of Autumn the greatest fucking level of all time. And then every Halo game after that continued to cook and only really evolve and get better until Bungie fucking left. I've come out and said this on a many occasion. I am a Halo 4 hater. Halo 4 had a terrible multiplayer, and then Halo 5 had a terrible story, but an alright multiplayer. And then Halo Infinite kind of brought it back around with a mediocre as fuck campaign, but a multiplayer that I actually really enjoyed. It felt like the perfect mix of old and new Halo. When I was playing that multiplayer, it felt like 343 finally did something right. I wasn't an Xbox kid, so I only ever got to experience Halo through buying an Xbox secondhand on a one-off, and then playing Halo, and then not touching the Xbox, and then selling it when I got broke. Or, what's it called? Like over friends' houses, or when they finally got PC releases. I was always a PlayStation kid growing up. Peep the PS2. I'm not. Camera's fucking mirrored, so I don't know where I'm pointing. Peep the PS2 in the background, right? Love PlayStation. Not PlayStation right now, but I loved them at one point very dearly in my life, just like Halo. And like all good things that you enjoy as a child, capitalism gets to it. Whatever. I know the photo's MCC, but this is kind of talking about Infinite, because that is kind of the one that was left with a competitive scene at the time. Halo Infinite is really accessible because of it being free to play, but you're locked on the Xbox and PC. They did say they were bringing Halo over to PlayStation, but that was only the campaign evolved game, so there's not really any multiplayer in that except for co-op campaign, which wouldn't really make it a competitive game. I think Infinite had a really, really good ranked scene, especially when I was in Daybreak, the pseudo esports team. That was a really, really fun period, and I became an absolute monster at Halo Infinite. More of a monster than I was at any previous Halo multiplayer game, from like MCC and playing the multiplayer lobbies on CE demo and 2 Vista when I was a kid, because there were still lobbies for that, and they were peak. Even now, I still boot up Halo 2 campaign every once in a while, rip the old bong and play through it and just get emotional, bro. Fuck, I love Halo 2. I mean, I've even got a Master Chief helmet. This just popped into my head. Hear me out. We should do a Halo 2 Legendary Lasso stream, but I have to do the entire thing faded in my Master Chief helmet. If you like the idea of that, comment down below Halo faded, and based on the amount of comments we get, that will most definitely be a fucking stream. I think that would be peak. But unfortunately, the current state of actual Halo, it's dead, bro. It's dead with Destiny. It's such a shame. Halo brought me so much happiness, man. Frag Punk. Now, I know a lot of you are going, what the fuck is a Frag Punk? Which kind of brings up why I brought this on my list, right? Because I played Frag Punk. I've played a lot more competitive games, by the way, than the ones on this list, but these are just like the ones that were popular, like had their moment. Except Frag Punk never really had its moment. Even when I got into it, it never really was having its moment. This is by NetEase, by the way, the same team that did Marvel Rivals. and they essentially tried to make a Valorant clone. Thought they were gonna like stick gold twice, and it didn't happen. The game though was fantastic. I became a sweat at this game. I was so good at it and landing headshots and game sense and picking the right cards. It had this really cool system where the cards were like random modifiers for each game. So you could get cards where like the enemy team have really big inflated heads, increasing their headshot hitbox. You can make it so you guys have turtle shells on your back, meaning you are no longer vulnerable to being shot in the back. Just had all these cool like little features, but for some weird reason the game didn't take off. It had a cool art style, it had cool character designs you saw in the photo before, and it didn't particularly have a generic looking art style. I think people were just kind of tired of hero shooters, and considering it was the same development team that played Rivals, people were like, well, I'll just stick to Rivals because I'm preferring that, and I recognize the IP that I'm looking at instead of a brand new IP. Not trying to dissuade people from making brand new IPs. I think we need new IPs and less remakes and rehashes of nostalgia. But this really like missed the mark in the competitive game community, except for me. I weirdly really enjoyed this game. I think there is a chance for it to be revived because they haven't like killed it or delisted it or anything. And it's still getting updates and it's still getting new heroes. So they really want it to work and be out there for somebody. So I think I just need to put it on this list to bring more attention to this game. It's going in dead tier because the game, as far as I see it right now, with its player base and where it's sat at, is dead. But I think if enough people watch this video and decide to check out Fragpunk with the recommendations and the words that I'm saying, it could easily enter great to go tier. The finals. This one is just as sad as the last one. The finals is made by the exact same team that made Arc Raiders. They're a Swedish developer. Their name is really lost on me right now. But the finals, oh my god, what a game. It wasn't really like any kind of game mode I'd seen in a shooter before. It was this weird mix of Oddball from Halo, Uplink from COD, you know, the one where you have to like carry the bomb to like different sites and plant it, where it's kind of like rugby with guns, except you're doing this with caches full of money. And there's 3 teams dropped on this fully destructible map, like Battlefield 4 levels of destruction. Like you can just level buildings with people in them, which was amazing to see in real time. And you'd like fight, and like your buddy would like pick up a gas canister and throw it at a ceiling. It would blow a big hole in the ceiling. You'd throw flashes up to the enemies above and peek them from the stairs. There were so many amazing tactical options. But I think the finals just died because people didn't know about it. And I'm just going to say this now, and this applies to a lot of games like Arc Raiders and stuff like that. Please stop doing 3v3 team games, bro. I have more than 2 friends, and it sucks when you're like, sorry bro, the lobby's full. I hate having to choose between my friends, bro, when it comes to playing video games. Just make it so I can queue up with a squad of 4, right? And I think that's what killed a lot of these games like Arc Raiders, Apex, and the finals, and even Destiny 2. You always had to constantly tell your homeboy, sorry, can't, we're full, and someone's always feeling left out. And then while they're feeling left out, they go and find a game that can accommodate all of you, and then you hop to that one, and this game dies. I think, again, much like Fragpunk, because the finals isn't fully dead and delisted, it has a real opportunity to have a resurgence, hopefully from people going and checking it out. So again, that one unfortunately has to go to dead tier. Street Fighter 6. Now, where I place Street Fighter 6 may really surprise you, because even though I don't think that it is a better fighting game than Tekken 8 at all, it's just not. Street Fighter is my thing, but like Tekken is like my thing. Like I fucking love Tekken and Guilty Gear, right? Street Fighter just doesn't always do it for me. It's a game that I've always felt felt really kind of weird and like floaty. I like the fact that Tekken and Guilty Gear have like weight and impact to them. Although Street Fighter 6 did kind of fix the weight and impact loss of feel I felt with games like 4 and 5. There's still like a lot of stuff about Street Fighter 6 that just makes it really hard to recommend. The game is still super expensive. Like fighting games, they seem to maintain their price for way too long and have way too expensive DLCs. Okay, that's kind of like a universal thing for all fighting games. So, considering they're following industry trends, I'm not gonna hold this against them. But Street Fighter, instead of having like an auto combo special style system like Tekken, where it's like you can turn your fucking brain off and make your way to Tekken King with Kazuya spamming Y, and it's an unblockable electric aerial that once you're in the air you can't sidestep. I'm not going to get into my complaints about fucking special style in this video. That could be a whole nother 35-minute rant on another YouTube video. Street Fighter 6 instead has modern controls, which like isn't a solution to the problem of the difficulty curve that comes with fighting games, but at least it requires fucking directional inputs, bro. And at least it still requires like blocking in game sense instead of just let me give all of the best moves that are known to be pretty hard to execute, like electrics, to characters like Kazuya and King and Jin and Hwoarang, and then that should just be allowed in ranked past a certain point. I think the best way to solve the issues that people have with stuff like modern controls or special style is when you reach a certain ranked point. I think for Street Fighter, it should be Platinum, and for Tekken, it should be whatever the one just before Battle Ruler is, maybe even a little bit before, to be honest. Maybe just after like red ranks. You should not be allowed to use it. You should actually have to fucking learn the game, because that will filter people, bro. And that's what you need. You need like the people who are actually playing, because what's ruining it for the people who try really hard is that guy who can sit there pressing Y, winning the game with fucking perfect electrics. But I think Street Fighter 6 has that perfect right down the middle of... The cast isn't too big for Street Fighter 6, unfortunately, and a lot of the cast don't really feel that great to play, especially the characters that aren't like the kind of characters you've seen before, like, at least, obviously I'm talking from my mains, but I think Cammy, Chun-Li, and why am I remembering the name here? Because I have the fattest crush on her. Yuri, there we go. All play like the best, and then everyone else is like okay. But obviously that's just my preference because they're my mains. But I just think Street Fighter 6 has a lot more accessibility than something like Tekken. I think it would be a lot easier for new people to get into. Street Fighter 6, just from an accessibility standpoint, goes into GOAT. But I don't think it's better than Tekken 8. I think if you're willing to learn Tekken 8, then Tekken 8 should be in GOAT tier for you, and Street Fighter 6 should be in great. But if you want to be able to, like, not lose your cool and enter the fighting game world kind of, like, slow and steady, then, like, Street Fighter 6 is your GOAT, and Tekken's your great. You know? Overwatch. Turned Overwatch 2. People hated it. Went back to Overwatch. I think Overwatch has had its ebb and flow, and I think right now it's in flow. It really is in flow state. The last few games of Overwatch I played when I got on, stacked with friends, were insanely fun. Like, it felt like I was playing like 2016 launch Overwatch again. And I know that there are some Overwatch sweats who will be like, that's sacrilege and that just isn't fucking true. But I really, really have enjoyed my time with recent Overwatch. I like the new UI changes. I like the accessibility. And Another benefit they made that some of these games should have followed was they went free to play. So I think Overwatch now, more than it ever was before, is significantly easier to get into. The game's old, so even if you got like a cheapo PC, you would still be able to run the game decently well. And because it has non-realistic graphics and it's like an animation style, um, it runs way better on older hardware. The community is toxic, like kind of all of the other ones we've said here, although Overwatch is kind of on a different level. Prepare to just play ranked without voice chat on. Kind of like League of Legends, I suppose, in that respect. I don't want to put Overwatch in dead because I don't think the game has died, regardless of what Marvel Rival fans will tell you. I think it's had its resurgence, and there's a place for both of them in the competitive scene. I do still think Marvel Rivals is doing Overwatch better than Overwatch was doing Overwatch. Marvel Rivals feels like 2016 Overwatch, and it has been consistently feeling that good for about 9 seasons, whereas Overwatch has gone whether it's balance changes or making Overwatch 2 or screwing up promises to fans. But if you're new getting into this game, again, I'm talking about the new player experience and not someone who is going to bitch and moan about it like me in this video. So kind of like pick your points out of what I'm saying. Overwatch is just like kind of average now. It has the same kind of problems with Deadlock, with like its learning curve and everything else. I think the accessibility of it being free is great, but I think Blizzard in general and Overwatch have made too much bad blood with the gaming community that it might just be a hard sell, like anything EA puts out now, or anything Ubisoft puts out now. It will always be a hard sell because of the choices that company have made to treat their fan base. So for that, it's gonna have to go in average, but probably like middle of average, above Deadlock. In fact, we're gonna move some of this list around real quick before we do the last one. Okay, there's the revised list. Just some of the changes I made were just like preferences of where I think these games are at their best on each list. So I think the GOAT, if you were to get into, you know what, before we get to that, let's address the elephant in the room. Valorant, the other Riot Games game on this list. Still huge in the competitive scene, still has a massive player base, still consistently updated, and unlike its brother League of Legends, actually has a console counterpart now. Thankfully for you and your shitty stick aim, it's console only lobbies, so I unfortunately can't go in there and turn into free elo. This is what Valorant players sound like, by the way. This is what Valorant does to a fucking man, okay? They're just as toxic as League players. I don't care what anyone tells you, right? I have found more nice people in Valorant than in League. For some weird reason, they're usually French. But aside from that, dude, Valorant is so toxic. The cringe e-dating thing is like semi-true. I've only come across e-daters once, but they were chill as hell. And then I think all of the other ones that you see on like the internet and stuff, most of the time, I think it is probably staged between friend groups, because maybe I'm not playing it enough, but I don't think anybody's like fucking moaning on mic and sucking a dildo on the mic, bro. I don't think that's happening in video games. I just don't think that's happening. Valorant, though, it's kind of hard to place because the game has a really steep learning curve. I think a lot of its spray patterns and stuff are actually more difficult to control than something like CS. I find myself getting more kills and hitting my shots more consistently in CS than I do in Valorant, and Valorant is deemed to be the easier game. I just don't necessarily think that's true. And then when you factor in the fact that it's also sort of a hero shooter, so then you have all your different agents and all of their different abilities and power-ups that you have to learn and how to use them effectively, and that you're not just shooting, that also puts it at kind of like a rough spot of like the learning curve. I think the game being free is a really big benefit, much like League of Legends. But I can't put it in the okay with friends tier because of everything the Valorant community has done to cannibalize itself. I feel like even if you have a friend who has never played Valorant, they would have seen the reels or memes by now, and if you're like, hey man, we should get into Valorant, they're going to cut you off. So it's a hard sell to play with friends, and I really wouldn't recommend really solo queuing this game because of the people in it. But then, like Counter-Strike 2, the game also just has this thing to it where it kind of feels like crack. It's satisfying. A lot of these 5v5, headshot only, slow peek, don't make any noise through walls, use the right utility games. Maybe it's just because they tickle my fucking pickle more than any of these other games, but they just really find a way to make their games like liquid Coke, bro. Like, they amp you up. I think it would be wrong to put Valorant in dead, because it isn't, despite the way that a lot of people feel about this game. The game isn't dying, and I don't think it's going anywhere soon. I think once the Valorant lore even expands, we might even have a case where we have like an Arcane, but for like the Valorant cast. I think that could be interesting. I wouldn't put it in okay with friends, because this game is like impossible to sell to your friends. I'll probably put it in average, a little bit after League, just before Overwatch. And there you have it. That is the tier list of games that are, competitive, or still popularly seen as competitive games, that I think should be your choices to get into. I think pretty much anything on that GOAT tier, you really can't go wrong with. Obviously, the least accessible is Counter-Strike 2, because it's PC only. But everything else, I think you'd have a great time on, especially Rivals. It sounds like I'm shilling Rivals in this video, but I'm really not. The game just is that good. It is that accessible. It's got easy characters, but it's also got hard characters. It's got quick play. It kind of has like a little bit of everything. So it's really, really good at, using dopamine and fucking keeping you glued to that game, which is kind of what you want at the end of the day, and what the devs want, or else they wouldn't have done it as intended and as you see. This is the tier list. Tell me what you think down in the description below. Third time I'm saying it, but just want to hammer it home. If you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed my takes, like it if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it. Leave a comment on any other tier list you'd want me to take on, or any other topics. I'd be interested in doing more. I've actually really enjoyed recording this video. But yeah, I think that's it from me, guys. Peace.
Yo, what up? Let a fat nigga hop on this beat, okay? Like a fat ass hop on me. Okay. Arby, we got the beat. Shawty took my watermelon ice. I told her that.